I don't know, not a good sign. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Bristol Town Council meeting of March 30th, 2022. If you could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Welcome. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, the first item of business is the vote on the provisional budget for the fiscal year 2022 to 2023. And tonight's vote will be for Schedule A in the amount of $58,012,785. Schedule B in the amount of $1,220,360. This is included in Schedule A, and as well as Schedule C in the amount of $6,667,196.
I make a motion that we approve it.
Second.
A motion made by Tony, seconded by Tim to approve. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item of business is the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second with a request, Mr. Chairman.
So we had a motion and a second by Tony. Discussion?
I would like to move DD3 up if possible and make the presentation at the beginning.
So we had a motion to approve with also moving up DD3. That was second. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. DD3.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to ask that you do the honors because I forgot my glasses.
So this is a citation. I'm going to read most, if not all of it. And this is for Gilbert's Auto Service. Town of Bristol proudly expresses special recognition to Gilbert and Claudette Almeida for operating a family-owned small business for 36 years. It's impressive. In presenting this citation, the town recognizes in particular that small businesses have been the backbone of our economy and the cornerstone of our community. In making this presentation, the Honorable Town Administrator and the Honorable Town Council of the Town of Bristol and State of Rhode Island, in accordance with the authority vested in them by the citizens of Bristol, and on behalf of all Bristolians, greatly acknowledges Gilbert's Auto Service for 36 years of continued hard work, dedication, and commitment in the service of the citizens of Bristol. They further offer sincerest congratulations and best wishes to Gil and Claudette, that's how I know him, Gil, and their employees and family and friends on the occasion of their well-deserved retirement. And it's signed by myself, Town Administrator, Mary Perella, Antonio Texera, Tim Sweeney, Aaron Lay, and Muscadero, the Town Clerk. I think that deserves a round of applause.
Yeah.
I understand Jenny and Laura here. Yes, could you come up just for a moment? I'm going to hand this over to Councilman Texera. There you go. And maybe you can come up and receive that.
Thank you.
And our thanks from our parents as well. They wanted everyone to know that the customers are much more than customers, but also.
Thank you so much.
They wish them good health.
Yeah.
Of course, yes. Sorry they couldn't
And I
be
wish
here
them the
tonight,
best.
but thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
this recognition.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well deserved.
Right.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You can do it. Absolutely.
Just very quickly, Mr. Chairman. I remember Gil, he was the guy that was always ready, no matter what time, what was needed, he was always there, just give him a call and he had your back, and certainly is very much appreciated for all those years of service. Thank you.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item.
Madam Clerk, before you
Yes.
go, I'm going to ask could we get a motion to pull forward? I believe it's either the last agenda item. It is I-10, actually. I-10, which is the draft resolution that this council proposed. So if we could have a motion to pull forward I-10, please.
So moved. Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Excellent.
Oh, sorry. You threw me off a little bit, sorry.
Well, I went to the end of the meeting. I don't know why I threw you off at all, so.
So I-10, we have discussion and act upon the draft resolution in opposition to the Rhode Island House Bill 6638 and State Senate Bill 2430.
So we invited our reps and senators here to help the council and ultimately the town of Bristol residents understand this bill. Typically, we don't ask or we don't draft resolutions for a myriad of reasons. But if I could ask our reps and senators to come up, if you don't mind. Thank you. We have Senator Wally Felag and Representative Sue Donovan.
Yeah, unfortunately, two of the senators could not be here this evening. Senator Assembly has some family obligations, and Senator Coyne is in the Environment Committee.
Yes, and Representative Speakman is in a committee as we speak.
So thank you both for coming. The reason why there is a resolution in opposition of this bill is there's a multitude of reasons, but I'm actually going to lean on our community development director, and I spoke with Diane.
Excuse me,
Wade.
can I interject 1 second? No one told me why I was here for this particular meeting. So can you address the numbers again and what bills you want us to expound on?
Certainly, it's House Bill 6638 and Senate Bill 2430.
Because there might have been some miscommunication, because at one time there was another piece of legislation that they wanted us to talk about. And then they said that we would
was
do
a-
it at a further date.
Right, and then in that same email, there was a follow-up with the discussion for II-10.
I got it. Do you want to read the language? I have it. So I think the last description is what's very misleading. I'm trying to get to it now. It's long on the phone. The act would prohibit single-family residential zoning in municipalities with populations of over 20,000 and mandate those municipalities adopt zoning regulations for middle housing in single-family residential zones. So this bill is not coming out of committee. I think we talked about this last week a little bit, and you might have spoken to Representative Speakman. It was presented by an East Providence representative and two others. I do not sit on housing, or in this committee, but I had Representative Speakman explain it to me. So this bill, which is not, like I said, is not going to pass out of committee. If you had a single family.
Representative, could you take just a moment to
Sure.
explain to everyone what committee is and what that means if it would not come out of it?
So there are 2,000 bills that get presented into the record. And they're heard, almost all of them are heard in different committees. This one, I think, went to municipal government, which Representative Speakman sits on. And it was held for further study. And it had a lot of opposition before the hearing, and a lot of the towns submitted that opposition at the time of the hearing. It is not going to move forward. But what it did do, if I'm trying to explain why we all opposed it, is, or not me, I wasn't on the committee, but it allows duplexes, quarterplexes, cluster housing, townhouses on a single family lot. That's what this bill did. It was an attempt by these representatives to solve the shortage of housing, but obviously it's not going to go through. Do you have anything to say about that particular bill?
No, well, I just want to expound in general. Keep in mind that the General Assembly, anyone can submit a bill. A lobbyist can submit a bill, a senator on behalf of a lobbyist, on behalf of the town, on behalf of any type of citizen. So as Mary Perella well knows, on a yearly basis, we have 2,400 bills. And they're assigned to committees. And each one of us senators and reps are assigned particular committees. I, for instance, am assigned to the Finance Committee. So I hear all the budget bills, the budget articles. I hear from the department heads. So my main focus is on those particular pieces of legislation. I'm also the chairman of the Special Legislation and Veterans Affairs Committee. So I hear all the special legislation, which amounts to liquor bills, plate bills, anything to do with DM, maybe constitutional bills or veteran bills. So I focus in on those particular bills. There are other bills that are assigned to various committees. The two particular bills that you want to talk about were assigned to committees that I'm not on. So those have a hearing process within that particular committee. And then the committee reaches a consensus based on the original verbiage. There may be amendments to those particular bills. They may hold for further study, which indicates that the bill may not come back out of committee. There's a whole different process. I know where you sat because I sat on the town council for 20 years. And when something comes before you, you have to make that decision right away. The legislature is a deliberative body. It's a whole different entity where anyone can submit a bill. The bill has to have a hearing. Once it has a hearing, it goes through a process. So it initiates either in the Senate or the House. It gets assigned to a committee. It has to pass that individual committee to be put to the floor vote. From there, it gets transferred to the other body for the same process. So when you're talking about this particular bill here that I just read, this is the first time I'm kind of reading that particular bill. And obviously a community of your size should have some concern about it because of the fact that you're within that limit of 20,000 or above. And that it would really go against all the zoning regulations that exist within your community. So again, the bill was held for further study from what I just read in the House Committee. I don't know, or I don't feel there's a companion bill. Otherwise, I might have heard about it on the Senate side. And if there is a Senate companion bill, please let me know so I can be on the outlook for it when it comes up in that particular Senate committee.
There is a, yeah, it's 2340 is the Senate companion bill.
I don't know who. It's probably many.
Excuse me, I looked up 2340 and I thought it said cannabis. Oh, I'm dyslexic. I wrote down 2430.
Gotcha.
That's the cannabis.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So the rationale behind, first, I preface this conversation by that this council doesn't a life of its own, and it can organically change. And we make these decisions prior to a council meeting to have it on the agenda, so it's advertised correctly, so it's open meetings and people can speak for or against it if they're concerned about it well ahead of time. So we don't know when a bill is going to be held for further study. The reason why this one was particularly important to have discussion about and ultimately have the council vote on supporting the resolution in opposition of it is that it's my belief, and I'm going to ask Diane Williamson if you could just expound upon it just a bit more, that it's an overreach of the state. There's a reason why zoning is a local issue. It's because just in Bristol itself, you can go from Hope Street to High Street to Wood Street, or pick another portion of town. There is so much that changes just 1 and 2 streets over. There's no way the state could ever use its broad brush and be able to address the issues. The town has we actually just did it recently, just did a zoning update, which actually spoke to removing the possibility of paying cash for affordable housing. Let me stop right there. This bill is about affordable housing. This council and this town support affordable housing. Our actions have shown that. This particular bill is not about the affordable housing that I personally have an issue, and obviously my colleagues are going to weigh in. It's about the overreach of zoning from the state. So I'm going to stop right there and ask Diane if she could just share a bit more information.
Thank you, Nathan. I think you said it well, and I think that's the concern. And I believe the Regional Planning Association that I'm a member of has also sent a letter in opposition for that reason of the towns really need to study through their comprehensive planning process where it's appropriate to have different types of development, different types of housing. As you know, there are certain areas that have infrastructure needs, no water, no sewer connections, and we have to be mindful of the environment as well. I think, as you said, also in Bristol, we have a very good track record of creating affordable housing, and that is long-term affordable housing that is deed restricted and goes on into the future. A proposal that creates more housing, but not necessarily categorized under the criteria that is an affordable housing building, or when we can count towards our goal of affordable housing, it creates more density, but not necessarily to the benefit of the public.
Would you remind this council and the public what affordable housing actually is?
So affordable housing is housing that is deed restricted for 35 years to be rented or sold to folks that have a 80 to 120% median income. And I can't quote the specific numbers because those change periodically, but yeah, so it's basically opening up housing for people who may not otherwise qualify to get housing.
Thank you, Diane. Colleagues?
Go ahead. Sorry, I was just going to say, Chairman, you nailed it. I think this is definitely an affordable housing issue. This bill does not hit the mark by any means. I think it's an attempt to try to solve something that doesn't really solve it, the bigger problem. And what I'm hearing from Senator and Rep, that this is the horse is already out of the barn on this one. The hearings have already happened. And it looks like it possibly may not come out of committee. So it could be just it could be staying put.
Excuse me if I
Then
may
they-
interject.
Just one moment.
The Senate bill has been submitted.
Mr.
but
Senator,
not-
if you could just let him speak and then
I
please.
just want to interject that it's been submitted, but it hasn't had a hearing yet.
Hasn't had a
Thank you.
hearing. And I think I'm just talking about the House side of the bill.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Senator. So I think at the end of the day, that we need to be cognizant of the fact that there are a lot of families out there that can't afford rent and food at the same time. And this is becoming a tsunami all across America. And I'm really hoping up at the State House, there's going to be better bills that they're going to be reviewing and looking at that, because I definitely don't think this resolves the issue at all.
Yeah, there are at least a half a dozen of these housing bills coming. So, and from what I've heard from my colleagues, they're not perfect by any means. And so once they're submitted, so I think you can look them up. And they'd be under municipal government, and you can read them. Some of them would take a lawyer to read, because like I said, one word, shall, may, makes a big difference. That being said, those bills as they are written and submitted, that they would never leave the committee probably in the state they were in. They would be revised, words changed, people, that's what the debate is within the committee. And a different bill might come out of that. This particular bill, I've heard from the people on that committee nothing's going to happen to this bill. It's just going to stay there. And these other housing bills, I think, will come forward. So.
If I
Well,
may
that's good news.
interject,
Yes, of course, go ahead.
one statement is that if you look on the State Senate website of all our bills that have been submitted, and I stated before that on a yearly basis, we probably have 1,300 bills submitted in the House, maybe 1,100 in the Senate. If you look under categories, as you scroll down of the bills and you put in housing, you'll see that this year we have 113 bills that have been submitted under housing. 113. So it's an issue that everybody's very cognizant about, and those will all have fair hearings. Some may be very good, some may be very bad. But what I express to you is that you should have a resolution against those particular pieces of legislation. The Senate has not heard 2340 yet. It will be put into the record, or maybe have a representative speak against it, and why a community like Bristol does not want this piece of legislation.
I think that was like the point of why he's on the agenda tonight. I mean, I
Exactly.
know the House hearing has taken place. It got a lot of press. We've been doing our town budget and our school budget the last couple of weeks. So we've been, working a lot, but not with our regular council meeting. And we thought this is important because to challenge or tell the towns what to do in regards to zoning, or whether or not you can or can't do certain things in particular zones. It's a little bit, like, as I said, an overreach, a little outrageous in my view. And I think we want to convey through this, that if this comes out at the last minute, like, we never know what's going to happen in the last minute. Anything can happen, as you all know. And we are opposed to it, for those reasons, not because of affordable housing, but because we don't really need the state that, telling us that we can't have a certain zone, we have to have certain kind of housing in there, and what's the next step after that. So we try really hard to keep our community certain way. I think you've probably attended, both of you, maybe parts of the comprehensive plan debates that we've had in the workshops over the years. And we try to do a good job to really get input and to look at all the things. And there's nothing that precludes us from saying that, as we did several years ago for like in-law apartments, whatever, there's nothing that precludes us from being able to say we're going to allow certain things in these zones to help facilitate a problem. But we think the local government is best suited to do that and not the state legislators. So that's how this is on the agenda tonight, because this is our first meeting since, maybe we don't have somebody that can like check all these out all the time, but the last few weeks we've been really busy with our other role in making sure we have a fair and equitable budget for everybody, for our kids and for our seniors and for everybody else. So that's what we've been on it. So to say, well, it's not past the time yet because it hasn't been voted on the floor. So I think we want to go forward, and I think we should go forward anyway, as the Senator just said, and make sure that this is on record that we are, I think there's, am I correct when I heard 29 towns are impacted with the 20,000 and over, and we're
Yeah.
one of them, so.
Yeah, and you only get 48 hours. Like I wouldn't be able to tell you a week in advance which
Right.
housing bills are coming up, because we just look at the agenda a couple of days in advance and then, go through the bills. But if I see that, I'll have Representative Speakman, if she sees the housing bills come up and someone would like to read through them. But see, you don't have time really to write a resolution against it, but you can do it now, get it ready now. If you see those bills submitted, like Senator Feelag just said, get the resolution ready to submit. So
But
that you
just
have
for-
it.
But just for clarification, this House Bill 6638, the hearings have already happened, and you're saying
For this one, but it hasn't happened on the Senate side.
on the
So you
Senate,
can
so
do-
we'd be
Do the
doing a
resolution.
resolution for
Yeah.
the Senate one. Yeah.
It's also has
In,
to happen
in all
before.
due fairness, you can still submit testimony
Yeah.
on any bill that's completed, and in that way it gets read into the record.
And I think you want to be prepared if it just pops out one night, somebody decides that this is in fact a good thing, for whatever reason. You want our legislators to know that we oppose it. So when it comes to the floor, you would hopefully vote against it.
No, I appreciate that, and it's a two-way street basically too, because of the fact that we hope your fire department, your police chief, your zoning officials, your tax assessor, your tax clerk are all reviewing the bills that have been submitted and providing some input to us. Like I said, we assigned special committees, as you know, Mary, and you focus in on those bills that are within your particular committee. So until someone notifies me of a particular bill, then a lot of times I'll read the journal, obviously, and the bills that they want to focus in on, I get a gist of that and form an opinion on it. But the majority of the bills that are submitted, until I look at the agenda, I don't know that they've been submitted, because I'm not going to search 2,400 bills and read each one to ascertain an opinion on each one of those.
And just for reference, I sit on education, but not Education Finance Committee. I sit on Health and Human Services, Veterans Affairs. The Veterans Home is in my district, so that makes sense. I also sit on Oversight Committee, and I sit on a subcommittee of oversight. I'm actually the chair of Aging and Senior Services. So those are the committees that I am directly involved in.
Thanks, Rep, and thanks, Senator, for sharing your time with us tonight. I was wondering, based upon all the experience that you guys have at the legislature, how common is it for any kind of housing legislation to kind of run afoul of home rule and things like that? Is it true that maybe a lot of the bills that probably are going to come up in housing are going to address some of the, zoning issues that happen in town and things like that?
Yeah, if you wanted to get a good idea of what was discussed in the Housing Commission, you can see those online. In passing, Representative Speakman told me one of the ideas someone floated was building housing on top of CVS and Walgreens and strip malls. If they were, you'd have to make them structurally, able to do that. But that was just, they had a myriad of ideas out there to try to solve the housing crisis. And that would maybe that would make sense in certain communities and not in others. Like that might not, like I can't imagine Barrington Shopping Center with apartments all above it, but that was floated. So, but you could hear more of the ideas if you went online and you could look at the Housing Commission video.
I guess my question is, are we going to, every time a bill is submitted in committee, are we going to, have to draft up a resolution because it touches on municipal zoning or anything like that?
And
I guess that's
unfortunately, you might have to. And that's why it's important that your building official or someone that's in charge of that particular aspect or category review those bills as much as we review them also. But like I say, a lot of times we don't know until 48 hours when that particular committee addresses those particular issues. Let me give you another little session in terms of, I'm a chairman of a committee. So what I do as a committee chair is I get all the bills that have been assigned to my particular committee, and then I take likeness of them. So I'll put all my plate bills into one bucket, all my veteran bills in another bucket, all my liquor bills in another bucket, and then each meeting will focus on that particular category and structure the meeting according to that particular category that's being discussed. And so that's why we have a deadline for submittal of these bills, so that we don't have, for instance, tomorrow we're having gun bill legislation, which is going to take 10 hours of testimony. And the last thing those people on that committee need is for someone to put in a bill a week later on guns and have to do it all over again,
I think we have to go back through and read them, of course, and just make sure we're familiar with them and, and somehow divide them all up. And make sure, but also I think we're asking you, and I think particularly, Wally, you were on council for a long time, as you said. It would be surprising if you were the lead sponsor in this bill, for example.
Well, thank God I'm not.
No, I know. It would be
So please,
surprising. It would be
don't think
surprising,
it's-
but I mean, so, if you see something coming up like that too, that we may not have caught, but, should let one of us know. I mean, Diane's here all the time, Steve's here all the time. So that, you can get a sense of it, like quickly, because I'm sure you have their people's cell phone numbers, and get an idea, because it's something that's going to impact or basically override our zoning laws. I don't think that's something that should be done there. And I'm glad that all the organizations that were there, that were reported on in the paper, various communities, as well as like the Planning Association, everybody else, and I believe the League of Cities and Towns probably have posted this as well. Am I correct?
And I was just going to say that I'm sure that the League of Cities and Towns, you're in touch with them, correct? Town Administrator Contente. They will notify you, I believe.
Oh, I'm one of the directors and I'm
Yeah.
well aware of the bill. But they are so active at the General Assembly, it's tough for us to, and Tony knows it, we're tracking them constantly.
Mhm.
And right now, there's a couple others that we're watching, but the thing to remember, and it's most important for our reps and senators to remember, is Article 13 of the Constitution. It's home rule, and in common sense, government works best when they're closest to your street. And, local government, I believe, works the best. So I think there's a disconnect between the General Assembly and the local cities and towns, which is a big problem. So I
We
just
all-
hope that
yeah.
our reps and senators, and thank you, and I hate to take that out on the two that showed up here today. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
And you're not even on the.
We're not even sponsored.
You're not on the housing committee, but I did call Representative Speakman on Friday. I had some issues about a couple other bills about housing that would impact Bristol directly. And they're working on it. She recognized that there may be some issues, and I was real confident after the phone call, but that it doesn't move forward. But we do the best we can. The league has a representative, two representatives that are at the State House, and they're working on our behalfs. So our thoughts and our position is well known in committees when it concerns local cities and towns. And again, we really have to hold on to that Article 13 of the Rhode Island Constitution. It's very important for the success of our communities.
Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on those other bills.
No, another thing that's really important, as the town administrator is stressing, is the fact that the League of City and Towns sometimes draft a pamphlet to be dispersed through the legislators, indicating what bills they're in favor of and what bills they're against.
Mary pointed out, and, the administrator as well, when I first started running for politics, somebody, advised that I should read a book that was written by Tip O'Neill, which many of you should be very familiar, the Speaker of the House in Mass. And one of the things he was very clear is politics are at the local level, governance is at the local level. And, it's already been struck, so I'm not going to dwell on that. But I think the questions need to be asked, and as Senator already pointed out, like him and many others that are at the legislation have been on the councils, in many of the councils throughout the state. And the question should be asked, how will this impact my community? I understand we can write resolutions and do all of this, but the question should be asked, how does this impact the person in the individuals in the community that I represent? This is a perfect one, so hopefully folks are paying a little more attention to that as well. We certainly, to Steve's point, I can spend 3 to 4 hours a day just going through the bills, what's being presented, even through the Rhode Island Leagues of Cities and Towns. They do a great job submitting those to us, alerting us that in fact, some of those are coming up. But how much time should we be dedicating to that?
So I'm going to put a bow on this. Thank you both for coming to speak to this. The affordable housing, there's been affordable housing legislation on the books for quite a while, suggesting a 10% goal, and there's no carrot there. This is the state overreaching, asking, not asking, telling the towns they will do. They're wrong. What the state needs to do is give the towns incentive to do that. Because currently right now, if you hit 10%, you get nothing. Now, the goal is a noble goal. So affordable housing is something that the town has focused on and continues to focus on. I think those goals need to be different in every community, but that's the point, is that zoning happens in each community, and then inside each community, it's micro zoning. We have so much discussion about this on, go to a zoning board meeting and understand the little changes. So I believe that we should be, and I'm going to ask for a vote just in a moment, that we should be in opposition of this bill. But I would ask both of you and our rep and senator that are not here to please, if you see things like this, bring it to our attention. Our open meetings laws are much more restrictive than yours. We do not have the capability of, we have 3 weeks between meetings, normal meetings. Yes, we can call a special meeting, but we don't have the flexibility that you do. We can't act in 48 hours because the law does not allow us to. So I would ask that if you can Well, we can. So
But-
Vice Chairman Perrella made a great point. He said, yes, we could have a special meeting. The reality is it's probably not going to happen because of a myriad of things, including scheduling. So the reality is that if you're both seeing something or our other rep and senator are seeing something, please bring it to our attention. If you see something that concerns you, that's going to affect the people of Bristol, tell us. Even though I'm not a big fan, I don't think my colleagues are, of resolutions, because they act on the moment and the bill changes as it moves forward. This is the correct thing to do, in my opinion. That being said, I'd like to, if we could get a motion from this council.
Could I just make one quick
Of
comment
course
that
you
I
can.
just thought of, and that is because this particular legislation addresses communities over 20,000. And so when you really think about like how our legislative delegation is divided up, we're probably the only community among all of you that is impacted, right? Warren's not impacted, Barrington's not impacted, Portsmouth wouldn't be impacted. Tiverton wouldn't be impacted.
You're right.
So, I mean, so it might be easy to like, you got to really look at carefully, like, oh, that's just like Bristol. Well, yeah, one of the bigger we are the biggest town in this Bristol County of 3 towns. And, so like I was just thinking about that, so like, really think about it, it really impacts us in this part of in this area. So with that, I just wanted to mention that aspect.
What's this council's pleasure?
That we approve the resolution to oppose, I don't know if that even makes sense, but yeah, to oppose
Support
the
resolution
these
in
two
opposition.
legislation in opposition to these 2 bills, House 6638 and Senate Bill 2340.
Second.
There's a motion made by Mary, seconded by Tony, to support the opposition resolution. Is there any discussion?
I would like to make sure the clerk puts it in, and I'm sure she will, because she has good notes, but just that it's clear that this is not about affordable housing or in favor or against affordable housing. We're all in favor of that, but it is about the overreach of state government to impact local zoning.
Is there any other discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I respectfully disagree a little bit with my colleague Mary. I do think it is about affordable housing, and I think that if it is about government overreach, if it is about home rule, then we ought to have a resolution about home rule. And that's something that we could very easily get together. It's not something that we're going to do right now, but I can't put my name behind this. I don't think that this law is a good vehicle for what it's trying to do. But I ultimately agree with the spirit of trying to increase the amount of housing stock. And the reason why I'm going to say that is because it's probably one of the issues that I'm hearing about more than any other issue. So I want to make sure that that goes on the record, that I do think it's about housing. And one of the reasons why I say that is because this legislation actually brought back a lot of memories for me. Because when I was in 7th grade, I had to move out of a single parent home or a single family home and into a duplex, because that's all my family could afford. And I know that there's people here in town who might have the same issues, that they might be having trouble making ends meet. And I know that we've been doing what we can to make housing affordable over here. But I think that we can always do better. And for the spirit, again, I don't agree with the bill. I think it's a very bad vehicle for doing it. I did a ton of research on this. I spent all night working through all the committee reports that were for this bill. And every time we have a resolution that comes before us, then that's what we ought to be doing, is going through every single committee resolution that comes before the Rhode Island Association of Realtors that come and give their testimony about it. I read that. I read people from NYU Law School writing about that. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm against it. It's one of the reasons why I can't put my name behind this. But again, I hope our reps will go to the legislature and say, you know what? This isn't the right way to get there. I agree with the chairman. There has to be incentives for us to be able to do this. We have to find ways to do that. And there's a legislative commission that's working on this issue right now. And just about everybody who was writing for this, they were saying, hey, we don't agree with this bill right now, but let's wait for that legislative commission to come forward. So I don't want anybody here thinking that the reason why I'm voting for it is because I agree with state government overreach. That's absolutely not true. There are times when we actually, other things give way to home rule. A lot of environmental issues are that way because environmental issues don't respect municipal boundaries. Okay. And then there's other issues that don't respect municipal boundaries. So oftentimes when you have constitutional issues, they come into conflict with one another. So that's all I pretty much have to say about that. But again, it is a little personal to me because I've lived that experience.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Okay.
So that was a 3-2. Yes. Thank you both for taking your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, the next item of business is the submission of minutes, and this is for the town council meeting on March 2nd, 2022.
What's this council's pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item of business is C1. This is ordinance 2022-1 on chapter 16 on motor vehicles and traffic. And this is to amend the parking on St. Elizabeth Street, second reading for adoption.
Motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, the next item on the agenda is C2. This is ordinance 2022-2, chapter 16 of the motor vehicles and traffic. And this is to amend the parking on Rock Street, Shaw's Lane, and Ryan Avenue. This is first reading.
I make the motion this constitutes first reading.
Second.
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Tim to constitute first reading. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is C3. This is ordinance 2022-3, chapter 16 to motor vehicles and traffic. And this is also to amend the parking on St. Elizabeth Street, first reading.
Motion to approve first reading.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve first reading. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on business is D1. This is the Bristol Merchant Association. This is a request for the one-day dancing and entertainment license per the event schedule. Let it also be noted that there's a petition for F1 for the use of the State Street.
Should we merge
Fence.
those or?
Why don't we get a
we
motion to
should-
that effect?
Yes. I make a motion that we merged F1 with D1.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. So we just merged D1 and F1.
F1 is the Bristol Merchant Association request for the approval of the event schedule for 2022.
Motion to approve the event schedule as stated.
I second that with the making sure that all ordinances and regulations are met, and suggestions recommended by the police as well.
There was a motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve. Is there a representation from the Bristol Merchants Association? Would you like to come up and have a 30-second commercial about all of these events that are upcoming? No, I just heard no. They're secret events that will not have, no, come on up. If you could state your name and addresses for the record, please. Names.
Brian Travers, 474 Hope Street here in beautiful Bristol. We've got several events lined up this year. They have just been so wonderfully received and supported by not only the town, but we've been bringing quite a few people from outside the town. So we'd like to appreciate, or we thank you for your continued support. I'd like to keep these going.
I heard ditto on that. Okay, perfect. Outstanding.
The first one is coming up, not this Saturday, but a week from Saturday, right?
Right.
So you want to give a commercial about that? Get people like thinking about it?
So April 9th is the State Street Spring Artisan Fair.
Yep.
And that is from 9 to 4. on State Street,
Yes.
right?
Zach Rivers, 29 Harrison Street, Bristol. Yeah, so as you said, little advertisement, April 9th. We have about 60 different artisans, crafters, vendors coming. We will have the acoustic music as well throughout the day. So 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock, anyone that can make it there, it should be a great event. Hopefully no rain,
Hopefully, and hopefully nice weather.
good weather. Yes.
Outstanding.
But again, I just want to reiterate what Brian said. Thank you guys for the support of these events. It's a big
Thank you
help
both.
Of
downtown.
course.
Yes, well, thank you
Forward
to
to it.
both of you as well.
Thank you.
So we had a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you both. Good luck.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next one, the next item of business is D2, and this is the Bristol Police Department. This is a request for a one-day dancing and entertainment license for the community night out at the Bristol Town Common for the dates of August 17th with the rain date of August 24th. If you would also see F6, which is also a request for the permission to use the Town Common, including the gazebo and the basketball courts for the community night event.
Maybe we could get another motion to combine these two, please.
So move.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Now, typically we get a recommendation from the police department. Does the recommendation come from the police department for the police department and something like this? Yeah, and you're okay with it?
No objections.
I have no comment. No, but did you want to express anything here? Is it- Sergeant Morato's here? All right, excellent. He was plain clothes. I did not recognize him.
I'll make this quick. I feel like I spend more time here than in my own council meetings.
You are more than welcome to be here all the time, sir.
So the idea is we started planning this pre-COVID and then COVID hit. We had to put the brakes on it pretty quickly. But the idea is basically to connect the neighbors and create camaraderie between the neighbors, the children, fire department and our police department. What I'm planning on doing is having all the police equipment to include the Marine unit on the common, our motorcycles, our bikes, give away free helmets. Police, the fire will do the same. They're gonna have the pink heels. They're gonna have an antique fire truck. We're gonna have a basketball shootout, cops against the kids, a pie eating contest, which Councilman Sweeney is gonna be the judge of. And we're gonna have a DJ, free food. I'm including all the businesses, as many sponsorships as I can from the businesses.
I'd like to stop there just for a moment. What do
Yes.
you judge at a pie eating contest? That's a great response.
That's
But I'm going to
very-
ask again,
that's
what do
very-
you judge at a pie contest? Really?
Well, the idea
The
is
judge is
how fast you
watching.
can
You
eat.
would-
Right,
We're
please
gonna have
continue.
three different age groups on that. So the, a lot of sponsorships, a lot of local businesses, all the food's gonna be free. Dell's Lemonade, we're gonna have a DJ Scotty Pellegrin. But the main event is, I decided that maybe we should do a dunk tank and have people like, and the chief was gracious to be the first one to volunteer. And all the proceeds, any money raised from that is gonna go to the Bristol Animal Shelter. I just trying to make it a fun event and with that, we'll have a purpose. In fact, we've nominated, I don't know if she knows this, our city town clerk, Melissa, she is also going to be in a dunk tank. Kim from DPW, myself, maybe Elvis, I'm not sure yet.
I'm willing to step up. As long as I go after the chief.
I will
No.
put your name on the list. So that's the idea of this event.
I look forward to being there. Outstanding. Now, but part of your request was also, am I right?
Council.
You were looking for a
contribution.
contribution from the council for $1,000 to support
Yes.
this event, correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right. Council,
That's going to go to offset the food costs of the local businesses. They're donating the product, but we're trying to at least be fair and pay for some of that stuff. The Paw Patrol, Chase and Marshall, that type of stuff, you know.
outstanding. Council?
I think it's going to be a wonderful event. It's going to be wonderful getting out the community together, staying stronger, especially after COVID. We need to get together and have a good time. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion based on all the positive recommendations to go ahead and approve the one-day dancing and entertainment license. And also in that motion, I will also $1,000 out of contingency to support this event.
Second.
There's a motion made by Tim, seconded by Aaron. Discussion?
So did the chief approve the event?
He did.
Okay.
Hearing no other discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Sergeant.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item of business is D3. This is Christopher Clayla for Toasted Bun Hospitality LLC, doing business as Statesman Tavern from 31 State Street. This is a request for transfer of the Class BV liquor license to Peter Carvelli of 12 Catering LLC, doing business as Folia. And this is under new ownership, and this will be called for public hearing on April 20th.
I move that we approve the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Tim to call for public hearing on April 20th. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item of business is D4, and this is Denise Ashola for Our Lady of Mount Carmel Church. This is a request for one-day dancing and entertainment license, including Sunday for a nonprofit for the annual feast, July 14th through the 17th. And
Thank you, Mary.
it was
I was just going to say that if we could get a motion to combine.
also F5.
So we have a motion,
Second.
motion made by Mary, seconded by Tim to combine D4 and F5. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
And the agenda item for F5 is Reverend Henry Zeno, the pastor of Our Lady of Mount Carmel Church. This is a request for the use of the town common and permission to sell and serve alcoholic beverages for the annual feast dated July 14th through the 17th. This does include the setup dates from July 10th through the 18th.
I move approval, and it's good to see that they're coming back to the event.
Second.
There's a motion made by Mary, seconded by Tim to approve both D4 and F5. Any discussion?
I think it probably does not need to be said, but certainly to follow all the recommendations, from the police department.
I concur, Mary. I think it's outstanding
Mhm.
that normalcy is edging its way back. So any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is D5. We have Paul Raymond for spot number 580 Wood Street. This is a request for a tattooing license specifically for the application of permanent makeup.
Based on all the positive recommendations, make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve. Any discussion? No? You're not Paul, are you?
I am Paul, yes.
Come on up,
Come on,
Paul.
Paul.
This is your opportunity for a 30-second commercial.
Hello, everyone. My name is Paul Raymond. I'm here today to request a permanent makeup license for spa number 5 on Wood Street, where I would be renting a space to offer my services. I've practiced previously in 2 tattoo shops as well as a permanent makeup studio. I would love to bring my services to the town of Bristol.
So Paul, what? We haven't even voted yet. It's not. What is, I think we know, but to take an extra moment, tattoo makeup, tell us.
So I specialize in ombre powder brows, which is like a form of microblading. So it's a micropigmentation of the skin.
Perfect. Now it's okay to clap. Go ahead. So we had a motion and a second to approve. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Excellent. Good luck.
Good
sir.
luck.
Yes.
Thank you so
Good
much.
luck.
You want to clap again?
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item of business is D6, and this is Erica Pacheco from the East Bay Fish Company, 465 Wood Street. This is a request for a vitrilling license.
Based on all the positive recommendations, make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve. Is Erica here?
I think she is. Yeah.
Erica does not want to come up. If you
Louis
could-
Pacheco, Bristol, 630 Drive.
Welcome.
Welcome.
So this is your 30-second commercial. What are you doing?
Fresh seafood, cleanliness, and fish and chips on Fridays.
You are succinct, sir, and I like that. So
Simple.
yes, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Question about this. Is this the original owner? Is this Nick's?
No,
You're not.
Louis worked for Nick.
I worked for Nick for
Oh, I
13
thought, I
years.
thought it was one of his daughters was taking it over. Oh, you worked for him, so that's.
Yep.
Okay, okay. I was curious about that. Well, good luck to you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Yes, I'll take a fries, what is it, those, the smelts. You know.
It's all just Fridays?
Yeah, just
Yeah,
Fridays.
just Fridays.
It's a big menu.
Yeah, and we even threw the chicken nuggets out for the kids because, you know.
You said you didn't want to talk. I just wanted to remind you. of that.
In front of a mic, I don't.
Okay. I'm just giving you a hard time. So, all right. So hearing no other discussion. Oh, is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Good luck.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item of business is D7, and this is also for Erica Pacheco and the East Bay Fish Company, 465 Wood Street. This is the request for the holiday sales license.
It's an opportunity to speak if you'd like. So, no, okay.
I'm already
Counsel?
being picked on back there.
Counsel?
Well, you're doing a great job. Make a motion to approve based on all the positive recommendations.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve the holiday license. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you and good luck again.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item of business is E1, and this is the cesspool license renewals for 2022 to 2023.
We don't typically do 30-second commercials on these, correct?
No.
Counsel?
Make a motion that we approve.
Second.
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Tim to approve. Any discussion?
Just a quick question. I see here we have someone who's from Warren, even though they live in Warren, but to operate in Bristol, we have to approve. Is that what it is?
Yes.
Somebody, yes, no, maybe,
Yes.
Yes.
yes, okay.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item of business is E2. This is the tattooing license renewals for 2022, 2023.
Based on all the positive recommendations, make a motion to approve.
Second,
Motion
in,
made. Go ahead.
on behalf of Mr. Halsey Harrishoff, you know.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony. And Tony was referencing that every time a tattoo conversation came up, Mr. Halsey Harrishoff would speak at length about his opposition to it. So he's no longer here and we still represent, we like to bring it up here and there. So we had a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, I'm going to jump to F2, which is Henry B. Santos at 484 Thames Street. This is a request for an accessible parking space. This is first reading.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item of business is F4, and this is Michael Balzano, 155 Bradford Street, Apartment C, and this is a request for an accessible parking space. This is second reading for adoption.
I'll make a motion to approve the second reading for adoption.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve. I'll just take a moment. If it seems like we go very quickly through some of this, there's a lot of effort made prior to this council meeting, and both recommendations from whether it's the administrator or departments to give us clear guidance on this. Ultimately, of course, is the council's decision, but my colleagues and I take a lot of time to go through the documentation before the meeting. So if it feels like we're moving along, it's because we've done our homework before then. So we had a motion and a second to approve. Is any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item of business is G1, and this is the Board of Canvassers, and we have for the term to expire March 2028, and we have Eric Hasselhurst, the chairman of the Democratic Town Committee, with the nomination of Marie Knappman for reappointment.
I make a motion to reappoint Marie Knappman.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Aaron to reappoint. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item is G2, and this is the Assistant Harbor Master Marsili with recommendations for the Assistant Harbor Master appointments with terms to expire in January 2023. We have we have 4 interested appointments: Michael McNayak, Robert D'Angelo, Zachary Rivers, and Robert Wardwell.
So typically, the council in the past has interviewed candidates. Obviously, we always do for boards and commissions. But I believe, well, not I believe, I know the harbor master has already interviewed these candidates. Is the council okay with appointing as presented?
I am, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion to appoint the Assistant Harbor Masters as stated on the agenda, based on the Harbor Master's recommendation.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Mary to appoint as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Greg, I saw you trying to come up. I saw you. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is G3, and this is also the auxiliary harbor masters with the terms to expire in January 2023. And we have the recommendation from the harbor master for Nicholas Simeone, Stephen Serpst, Warren Resenhausen, and Paul Padula.
I would assume the same here, correct?
Yes, based on the recommendation of the harbor master, I move that we approve.
Second.
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Tim to approve as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item of business is H1. This is.
Madam Clerk, if you could just stop
Yes,
just a second.
I can.
These are appointed positions, sometimes volunteer positions, and this is the point that I always say for the council. Thank you. Thank you for giving back to the community, whether it's this board or any board or commission. This council appreciates it. This town would not be the town that it is without the volunteerism that we enjoy, and we say thank you. Thank you.
Mr.
Definitely.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item of business is H1, and this is Economic Development Coordinator Vitale. And this is an update on the ARPA broadband fiber project. This was continued from January 2022.
So Chris, this was extended, or I should say, we pushed this off a few times because we wanted to make sure that we had all the information necessary. I understand it's ready to go now. So
We're ready to go.
floor is yours, sir.
So over the last 6 months, we've had conversations with several different service providers for fiber. Broadband service, it uses a different transport than copper wire or the wire that goes on the telephone post. So we have been looking at this for quite a while. When we got the American Rescue Plan funds, broadband was one of the things that was a qualifying expense. The cameras in this room are a perfect example why broadband is necessary. As we go and use more software and technology and cloud-based services, you need faster internet. And just like everything else with technology, you want to make sure it's secure. And here in our town operations, we have a lot of things that we do day in and day out that we want to make sure we're protecting. So I provided a memo to the council that really has a full breakdown of the benefits of fiber. The last 6 months, we, like I said, have engaged several service providers to determine what is the optimal setup for the town. Between all of our different departments and different places within town, how we can connect, and we can actually get a little bit of cost savings by going with this. So at a very high level, faster internet speeds, it's a closed network. There is redundancy in case one portion of town goes out, like the west side of Bristol, the east side, we can pull in a connection from there for continuous internet. So that's the project at a very high level, but I'm here to answer any questions. And I know the fire chief is also here and has spent a lot of time on this as well. So he can also help with some of those technical questions.
I'm not sure how technical the council wants to get. I know that, thank you. And thank you, Chief Tamela. I know that there was a massive amount of work that was put into this. I don't think this would have been possible. We wouldn't even consider this without the ARPA funds. Actually, I can tell you straight out, we would not have. This is a significant investment. Then we're using those ARPA funds to do that. The savings on a monthly basis is nice, but I think that at the end of the day, it's reliable, fast internet. I don't think we have to explain that to anybody of how important it is, and particularly this community, being able to, and maybe you can hit just a couple of the high points. We have less, my understanding is we have less, we'll call them modems. We have less and better technology, better connection, and safer, and keeping out those, we'll call them ransomwares and all that other. So if you want to expand on that just a little bit, and I'll ask my colleagues for their questions.
Absolutely. So currently, we have about 10 municipal sites. Now at each one of our departments, along with the internet modem, we have a firewall that allows us secure connections. Now through this, we'd be able to reduce the number of firewalls that we're paying for on an annual basis. And we're able to have 2 central firewalls that connect our internal network with the external internet, the world. So there are sort of less ports to penetrate on that front. The second is there are different types of cyber attacks. So with DDoS, it's a bot that keeps pinging your network and trying to penetrate it. So with this type of service, it also makes it a lot more difficult for people to try and hack it. Because again, it is a closed network. So you'd actually have to hack the network, you'd actually have to get to the physical fiber transport and tie in person versus being at a remote location. The built-in redundancy. So as I said before, it's a ring network design. So with that, we are working with our provider to connect all of our buildings in that ring format. So again, if there is downtime in one section of town, it can go around the ring to the other section and pull internet. So that'll help with continuity of operations as well as our emergency management. So
better speeds and allows us to do our job better for less money every month.
Yes.
Chief, did you want to add anything?
Good evening, everyone. Mike DeMello, Fire Chief. No, Chris summed it up really good. Just simplify it. We have a 2-lane road now with copper line. This gives us like an 8-lane road or bigger. So less traffic jams, less stops on the road by having less firewalls and devices that each thing has to stop at. So it just speeds it up, makes us more secure, and gives us a great foundation for the new generation of technology that'll come, and it'll set us up good for the next 30 to 50 years. So I think it's the way to go, and it's in compliant with the ARPA funds. And like you said, Mr. Chairman, I said, we have a unique opportunity that we probably otherwise wouldn't be in a position to do. So I think this is a great opportunity to go with.
Council?
So when people come in, when people log onto their Wi-Fi at one of these public places, right, that we would be sponsoring, that would be then much safer for them and for us. They're not going to be able to get it. I'm not sure how it all works because I don't really use like the public Wi-Fi too much, but people, they say you have to be super careful that you don't leave anything, like banking, make sure you log out and all that sort of thing. Does that make it safer all the way around for everybody, or?
Yeah, there's some benefits. There's always a risk when you use any public Wi-Fi. As far as the town operations, to illustrate, the town operations will be on Metacom Avenue. And if you're using the public Wi-Fi, you're using Hope Street. So they don't connect. They're on 2 separate networks. So there's no chance of infiltration into the town network or vice versa. So there are much more higher level security features that come with this package that will hopefully reduce the threat of those issues.
And what about, so would there be places, not buildings, but say just the park, like the town common, if parents were there with their kids playing on the playground, would they be able to access Wi-Fi there?
Yeah, so we looked at a couple of spots where that would potentially come into play, the town common being one of them. And, we can basically lock that down, throttle it down, shut it off at any point of the day. So you can't do it overnight, it shuts off at 10 p.m. or whatever we decide to do by policy. And we thought, nationwide and worldwide, that's a very common thing. Then it helps us advertise town with a splash page, they call it. So when you hook up, even in here, if you're on the the public side. It'll say, welcome to the town of Bristol, visit this, visit that. So those opportunities are there. There'll be throttle, there'll be mostly town-owned buildings and a few of the parks and stuff like that, because there's other initiatives that have come out in the meantime that are kind of pushing the public broadband spectrum, so to speak. So we didn't want to dive into that because there's other funding and other agencies that are going to kind of deal with that. But we were able to interject a few areas, maybe Independence Park, maybe the town common, and lock those down so that it's a nice benefit, but it's not something that's going to burden us or add additional expense to it.
I just wanted the last question. I don't even know if this would impact it, but you know, like the company that uses fiber optics right now isn't in Bristol County, right? So from what I understand, they don't have any plan to come here. Would this like expedite it so other providers for faster internet would come for, I'm talking about on the consumer side.
Yeah, so the consumer side, I think what you're seeing, and I can't speak completely to the technical, but on the back end, so the commercial companies that are providing internet now are switching a lot of their equipment and operations to fiber. So to your house, from the pole to your house, and maybe the first 3 miles to get to your house are still copper, but at their main data centers and control centers, they're already going to fiber because of the benefits of the speed and that. So the additional funding and the additional initiative that's coming out is kind of like that last mile, they call it, is to eventually fund or provide opportunities for all these commercial providers to get fiber to that last mile and get it closer to your house. That's, you know, the best way I can describe that.
I guess my question was more about like, does this provide any incentive because the town is going this way, or doesn't it really matter?
No, I think it puts us ahead of the curve, right? So it's more of an incentive. So if we, 30 years from now, if we're still on copper and everyone else is on fiber, then we're kind of stuck and we need to do it. So I think the incentive is we're already set up and ready to go. You just gotta meet us now at that point. So.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay.
I just had a question. I think it's a great project. I was just curious, are any of the locations that were originally decided on, have they changed at all? So Town Hall, Police Department, Fire Department, Public Works, Independence Park, Franklin Court. It was like part of your original list. And I was just wondering if any of those sort of.
Yeah, so some were speculative. So like Franklin Court's not on there. That
Okay.
was just way beyond the scope of what we're trying to do. And that's what took so long, is really identifying and seeing what made the most sense and was going to work for us. So, but some of the other, pretty much by virtue of the town buildings having it, we kind of have that public Wi-Fi now in some of the town buildings. It's easy to do that. Like I said, that fiber has multiple lanes of roadway, so they're able to separate it. So now if you go to the police department and you wanted to do, for example, use the parking lot to exchange your merchandise that was bought online, because it's a safe place to do so, you're able to use a public avenue that's separate and apart from the police department's internet. All right, but it's still secure, still monitored. So most of the sites are tied to where the fiber is already running, which are the town buildings. And I think that's really probably the best option. A couple outlying sites are good, but with all those other initiatives and funding coming, I didn't think it was really responsible to kind of jump into that when that's probably going to be dealt with at another level.
And the big ones like Maritime Center, Town Beach, those are still part of the
they're
original
still-
list.
Yep, they're still there.
Yeah. And Chris, just remind me, we went out to bid on this, obviously. I mean, Ken. So we went out to bid on this. Why this company?
So this is actually a process. The state has an NPA that allows us to work with companies who have been pre-qualified in this area. Now Ocean, they actually service several entities here within Bristol as it is, one being the regional school district, second being Roger Williams University, and the library also uses them for their internet services as well. So they specialize in public institutions. They work with other municipalities, and they know what we need in terms of service. And to this point, they've been very responsive to our needs and working with us on this proposal.
It's actually Ocean is an acronym for Ocean State Higher Education Economic Development and Administrative Network. That's why they say Ocean.
Yes.
What was that again?
No, I'm not doing it. Is there any other discussion? No. So we just need a motion from the council. I would assume if we want to support this fiber project recommendation and take the next steps.
Certainly do. I believe we should support it. And thank you for all the work that you've done thus
Yeah.
far to bring us to this phase.
Yeah.
I'll take that as a motion from Tony. Is there a second? So motion made by Tony, seconded by Mary to support and approve. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you both.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item of business is I1, and this is Councilman Lay in regards to Sarah Churgan for the Eastern Rhode Island Conservation District to share information about the residential stormwater runoff mitigation.
All right, thank you. Sarah couldn't make it here with us today. She hurt her back or something like that. So she just wanted me to relay that there will be a residential stormwater runoff mitigation workshop on April 4th at 6:30 p.m. at the Quinna-Gamlin Center. They're going to talk about ways that you can keep water pollution from running off your property and into our harbors and making it so that we can't go coal hogging and fishing and swimming in our waterways. And so that's one of the things that all of us homeowners can do to all make our collective effort to support the environment. So again, April 4th, 6:30 p.m. And then there will be a rain barrel workshop at Quinna-Gamlin Center on May 7th from 10 to 12 p.m. And it's a wildly popular program. It sells out every time. The cost is $45 per barrel. So that's a way that you can save water and save on your water bills. It's a way that you can keep that runoff from going out into our streets. And it's a great way to do your part. So, and we just need to receive and file on that one. So I'll make a motion to receive and file.
I'll second. And spring is sprung and a lot of great events coming up. Thank you, Councilman Lay.
So there was a motion made by Aaron, seconded by Tim to receive and file. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item of business is I2, and this is the Bristol Warren Education Foundation with an update of the BWEF organization and a request from the council support for their spring event. And I believe Darcy DeCosta is here to speak on behalf.
Hi, how are you? Darcy
Good.
DeCosta, 10 Long Lane, Warren, Rhode Island, but
Whoa.
sorry, chair here in my role as chair of the Bristol and Warren Education Foundation.
Welcome.
And real quick, I won't take a lot of your time, big agenda, we're back. We kind of never left. Unfortunately, we're on the leading edge of event cancellations in 2020. But while we were all hidden away, our mission carried on. We did some just-in-time granting for our school district. We proceeded in allowing teachers to proceed with the grants that they could, but their abilities were, of course, limited during COVID, mostly because we weren't allowed in the building. And a lot of what the foundation does is to bring in new education innovations and guest speakers and guest programs that simply couldn't be run. So what we also did was hold over grant approvals. Normally we do grant processes in the spring. Grant applications actually just closed last Friday for next year. And you're supposed to execute those grants in the following school year. We went ahead and said, if you think you could do this next year or even the year after, we're going to hold those funds aside for you to do that. And thankfully, those things are starting to happen again, as you said, Chairman Caluro. Normalcy is slowly but surely coming back. I'm getting pictures and letters about grants finally happening again, and it's wonderful. And most importantly, our big event is back. So the B is back, but it's a little different this year. We're going to take a little break from spelling. We all love it, but we're kind of competitive. I didn't love it either. I've done it 3 times. Thank you. There are people like, oh, it's a spelling bee. That's the hook. And I'm like, it's been the hook for 12 years. Let's try something else. So
Well, this council was out in the first round. most of the time.
I made it to the second round, I think 1 time. But 2 things we're doing. One is we're foregoing a spelling competition, but we're having an outdoor event. Roger Williams isn't quite ready to host 400 people in their field house yet. So we're moving down the road a bit. We're having an outdoor event at Hope in Maine. Hope in Maine's been a good also community organization partner of the BWEF, and they are opening their schoolyard to us. So we're going to have an outdoor event May 14th at Hope in Maine. We're having recess. So if you want to be out in the first round of Twister or hopscotch, or maybe a hula hoop contest in lieu of spelling. I know that Ms. Dobbin, who's one of my board members, wrote the request for the silver sponsorship with, according to the paperwork, qualifies you for 4 tickets. I'm sure we can allow a few more members of the council and Bristol staff to join us at recess if you're willing to join us and support our event in the organization. But all is going well. We still have a lot of our sponsors have stayed with us even through COVID. Medical Associates Rhode Island is again in as our platinum and signature sponsor, and I hope to see you all there.
I think it's a great idea to have it at open meeting. I'm excited about that.
I am too. There's a few new logistical things we got to work out, like tents and prayers for good weather. But generally speaking, I think just the idea of being at a former school, being at another nonprofit is, we'll see. Maybe we're going to have, maybe spelling will be back. Not if I can help it. Don't tell the rest of my board. But we love Roger Williams. We love the field house. It's just for this year, it was more important for us to be back in person and celebrating anywhere they would have us. And Hope and Maine has agreed to host us. So we're looking forward to it.
They have so much great, I mean, they have such great experience doing their own things and in their schoolyard, you know, their own big fundraiser every year. And some years I have to say, I've been there, it's been downpours, but people still go. So
Well, that's what I
Hopefully
hope
that doesn't
that, I
happen,
hope
but-
that spirit, we will, in keeping in the spirit of Hope and Maine, 401 Gourmet and Ocean State Foods are our primary caterers. And the tradition continues. The origins of Two Gals Cocktails was the Bee. They were our guest bartenders one year and a business was born. So they'll be back. I don't have a signature cocktail to announce just yet. But
Twister and signature cocktails. What could go wrong?
I'm just gonna say wear comfortable shoes.
Yeah, you have a chiropractor on staff.
Go ahead and costumes are encouraged again. We can theme it up if you want, but
So last year, we had supported with a contribution of $1,250.
yes.
Yeah.
What's this council's pleasure?
Motion to approve the 1,250 donation ask out of contingency.
Second.
There was a motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to support and contribute $1,250 from council contingency. Is there any other discussion?
Just thanks, Darcy. Boston, some of the events in the past, Boston Tea Party Museum tours for the kids, Science Olympiad at Mount Hope High School, RISD museum trip, orchestra, Nature's Classroom, coding club, just a few of the things that you guys have been doing. So thank you.
just a couple.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Big supporters of education. So keep up the good work.
Thank you very much. Thanks to our educators. They come up with the ideas. We just help find some money to do them.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you then.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item of business is I3, and this is the 2021 Economic Development Annual Report.
So this was presented to the council as part of our budget workshop. And quite honestly, it was so good that it should not have just stopped there. So we asked, I put it on the agenda. And Chris, if you could just take a moment, and there's a lot of highlights, and Mr. Administrator, if you wanted to start off, either way, I'm absolutely sure. There are so many highlights. I don't think we can hit them all, but maybe the highlights.
Yep. Well, this was our economic coordinator's work, and I just want to thank him for all of his efforts that he does all year long. The good news, high level, what I got from it was that we have pre-COVID numbers with our local revenues. That's municipal transient slips in the harbor. Meal and beverages are up higher than pre-COVID, and also hotel tax revenues are higher than they were in 2019. Other good news is the 45 or so, and Chris is going to go over all this, but just what some of the main points that I got from it. The annual sales of the 45 businesses that volunteered to participate, they're up 13% over 2019. So that's a good sign also. So I think
Awesome.
things are pretty strong. Housing was an issue. Competition for workers, small labor pool size. And I did see in here somewhere that the businesses were saying that potentially lack of housing. So, but I just wanted to thank you for allowing me to introduce Chris, because he's been doing an outstanding job. As you can see, economic development in local government is in different places, and we certainly use him in many different places. And I just want to thank him for all that he does.
Chris?
Thanks, Steve. So I won't take long. I'll just hit my highlights that I took from the report. So I guess first, this is the first report that we've done on an annual basis. I hope to do it going forward. I felt it was the right time considering we're just making our way out of the pandemic now. So my long-term hope is this is a benchmark and we can build on this report in future years and we can assess things on that annual basis. But some of the takeaways that I took is first the local investments. So every year, we come here and we do the capital projects and we invest in a lot of different areas of town. So from FY21, that was just over 3.8 million in terms of public investment. But while people were home during the pandemic, there was also a lot of activity in private investments. So something that we don't typically report on is what the labor and materials that people are applying for. We see the revenue that comes from our permits, but we don't actually look at what the labor and material for the project is. So I thought that number was very surprising when you looked at residential and commercial activity. The second is there's a section that goes over different business stories in town. So whether it's a business that's growing, that has changed ownership, or just a spotlight, I think 3 of our bigger employers had very successful years. Goats Composite doubled in size, bringing on 50 employees. St. Gobain has increased demand from their customers, so they were also looking to bring on 50 employees. And this council has been working a lot with Unity Park and the efforts to redevelop that. So they have a lot of new signature developments, but one of which isn't in the report, but it's happened this week, is there's going to be a new electric motor boat manufacturer that's going to be going in there. They're going to be bringing 80 new jobs to Bristol, and the average salary is going to be 100,000. So that's a highlight that will be going into 2022's report, but nevertheless, I think it just builds on all the activity that's taken place there.
If some of them are thinking, how do I apply for one of those jobs? Because I know I'm thinking that. So it sounds, I joke, but that's outstanding information.
Coming soon. So that we learned about that this week. It was very exciting. Lastly, as Steve said, so we did do an annual report and we asked our businesses a list of questions. I thank everyone who took the time to complete it. There was a lot, but I thought it was important to track. And, again, my hope is long-term, we'll do that every year so we can get an idea where businesses are at, what are the issues facing businesses in that moment, and then we can do what we can to help.
Chris, this is available on our website?
It is, yes. So it's under the commerce section, business resources. There's a section that says annual report. So it's right up front.
This is an informative and important read. I think it's what is focused on improves and what's focused on increases. So having that baseline, to your words, it's outstanding. I think that's why it was so important to have it here. It's a great job. Obviously, we're celebrating the success of some of our businesses. We're also celebrating the success of this town and also its residents. You mentioned some investments made both in businesses and in private homes. So colleagues?
One of the things, Mr. Chairman, that's impressive is considering the pandemic, how the businesses, the small, especially restaurants, have rebounded, where the meals, beverage and tax revenue is higher now than it was previous to the pandemic. So it's interesting to see that they certainly have not taken a hit. They are moving in the right direction. Certainly, it's impressive to see that.
Yeah, Councilman Tixer, you make a really good point. And I think, during the COVID times where government and small businesses met with outside dining and just the flexibility that we had really sort of helped. And I hope that continues. And I thought Chris had a lot of great information, and I'm looking forward to seeing the continued annual reports because it's going to give us more of these types of trends moving forward. I was very surprised at the rent amount in town of how high, and I'm curious to see what that looks like across Rhode Island as well, because it took at the monthly rent at $1,700. And I don't know if it seemed very high to me, and we were on affordable housing topic earlier, but I'd be interested to see what those are compared to the rest of our communities. But a lot of good information. Great job.
Chris.
Mary? Oh, sorry. Mary had her hand. And
Yeah,
then
that's fine.
Barry?
So on the meal and beverage tax, Julie, you know the amount, I know before COVID, it was like heading up to about 500,000. And now it looks like it's about 600,000 maybe.
I don't have the number handy right now, but I can get it for you.
But
But yeah.
whatever, that'd be great. I was just, the other one that I just was curious about on that was on the hotel tax, because last time I remember hearing about that prior to COVID, because we have so few hotel rooms in town, it was like never really getting up much beyond like 35,000, as I recall, like a few years ago. And this looks like it's much higher. Is that because there are Airbnbs that are registered? And
Yes.
that's coming from them? Good. Good then.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris, I just want to reiterate what I said the last time this came up during the budget is I think it's great that we're doing these annual reports and that we have the baselines and everything like that. I know the police chief had his, and they're always nice to look back on to kind of see where we're going or where we've come from and things like that. And certainly, sometimes we have maybe a town administrator that comes next, they'll be able to look back and kind of see what some of the things that we had done before, some of the things that we've tried before and everything like that. So I guess one of the questions I have for you is, like obviously on some of these reports, there's a lot of the good stuff that's there. And I like it also how you kind of included some ways that we might be able to improve and everything like that. If there was anything that, we could single out for improvement to maybe move the needle in terms of economic development, what could that be? And is there anything that we can do to help with that?
Yeah, so I guess I will refer to the business survey section. So I think for us, obviously the sentiment among businesses, knowing that they have us here and we're a resource to them, always try to do a better job to get out there and let them know what we can do. If they have an issue, facilitating conversations, getting them connected to the resources that are available at the local level and the state level. I think that's one. Second is, I would say, just general business activity. I mean, I guess making sure that we're keeping an open line of communication to the businesses on different initiatives that we're looking at. They may impact the business community. And then I think with regards to here in downtown, just again, doing things that will get people out to our downtown storefronts, get people in the community active. So I know earlier in the agenda, we just approved the calendar of events for the Merchants Association. So that's just an example of what we can do.
And Chris, we are doing Google Analytics, and we are not yet incorporating that, because that is really key as far as finding out what users are targeting, what website pages, just so everybody's listening, what users are coming, where they're getting, sitting on, even on our website, what pages are going, and what pages are not being viewed.
Right.
So we want to kind of get into bounce, what their bounce rates are and users and stuff like that. But I'd be really curious to know about that information as far as making it a little bit more dynamic, but.
Yes, so I guess hopefully as part of next year's report, I can have a little more information on that front. What I would say is Explore Bristol, who really, their website is more of the business oriented website and the tourism website for the town. I'm going to lean on them to get that information.
Great.
And then present it to you again, just to see what people are researching within the town and our businesses. And
yeah, thank you.
Right. Mr. Chairman, this document speaks volumes, obviously, for what we have done in the town. And this sort of goes to the earlier point here when we had Senator and the rep here, and we spoke about governance at the local level. This indicates precisely what we're capable of doing if we just left alone and let us do what we need to do. We address the needs of the community, the well-being of the community. We certainly do a great job at that. So, but this speaks volumes. It is a volume in itself.
Outstanding. Julie?
Just as a follow-up to Mary, your question earlier, I was able to pull those numbers and we budgeted 516,000 approximately for our meals and beverage, and we're on track to exceed 600,000 this year. So
Outstanding. Outstanding. Is there any other discussion? Just need a motion to receive and file, please.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to receive and file. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is I4, and this is Town Administrator Contente in regard to the First Amendment of the use agreement for Coast State Park.
Mr. Administrator?
Thank you. So this was a negotiation with DM Parks and Recreation to change our agreement to use the fields on the south side of the Town Beach parking lot where the soccer fields are. And there is also the overflow soccer fields in the parking lot in the back. It's a grass parking lot. And the purpose for the amendment was to permit us to put a stage in, be a recreation stage. We're applying for grants, and in the event that we get a grant, we'd like to put a recreation stage near the Town Beach complex.
Just have a brief question. I see that it appears that it's 10-year increments. Am I correct in that? That's the length of the agreement. They don't allow us to do a little longer.
That's
I know
right.
one time we did 100 years for whatever it was, seriously, but that's not existing any longer.
So
Okay.
it's so this is an amendment to the original lease. The original lease was till 2031. So this would be good till 2031, unless amended again.
Good. Thank you.
Any other questions? We just need a motion to,
Authorize the administrator.
I like that.
Okay. Motion to authorize the administrator to act on behalf of the town.
There's a motion and a motion made by Tony, seconded by Mary, to refer to the administrator. Is there any, and to approve, I should say. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, the next item on the agenda is I5, and this is to discuss and act on the approval of the proposed settlement in regard to the national opioid litigation.
Mr. Solicitor, we haven't heard from you all evening. This
Well,
is-
you're about to now with more good news for your coffers.
Please.
So as you know, there are several outstanding lawsuits involving the opioid litigation. And a month ago, you approved the Johnson & Johnson settlement. That one is being paid out over a period of 18 years. The good news on this one for Teva and Allergan is that the payout's going to be all at once. And Bristol's share of this particular settlement will be $61,684.65. And I'm looking for a motion for you to approve this settlement so we can let the lawyers who are handling this first process it.
So move.
Second.
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Tim to approve. Is there a discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, the next item on business is I6, and we have Kimberly Bennett, the 2022 co-chairwoman for the Keep Bristol Clean, the annual town-wide cleanup event on May 7, 2022.
And I know Kimberly's here.
Hi.
Thank you, Kimberly Bennett. I just wanted to let you all know the 33rd annual Keep Bristol Clean Earth Day event will take place May 7th from 9 to 12 at Public Works, 111 Mount Hope Ave. We usually have about 100 to 150 volunteers that are distributed to 37 different locations in town to clean up trash and recycling. Happy to carry on the tradition. I look forward to seeing many of you there to meet.
You usually do, right?
I usually do.
Yeah. So if somebody's interested, we like to ask this all the time, if they're interested in volunteering, what do they do?
Call me.
Or just show up that day?
Either way, we're
And that
happy
day
for
again
either one.
is, when is it?
Saturday, May 7th from 9 to 12.
And you provide, if my memory is correct.
Yes, we do provide, during COVID, we did more of a bagged lunch tradition rather than the traditional coffee and donuts. So we might do a combination of the two because we thought the bags kind of worked.
And one should show up with gloves and,
We do actually provide gloves and the bags, and we provide whatever, we can do to help you and send you on your way.
so show up and help out. So it's always a great
We-
event, honestly.
It is a nice event, and it's nice to get the community together.
Show up where?
111 Mount Hope Avenue.
Oh, okay.
Yes, perfect.
Yeah, it's always a great event, and I think people should understand that it's a flexible event. So you're not stuck from 9 to 12. If you can do an hour, or
we'll
you can do
take-
2
yep.
hours,
Yep.
we will take as much or as little time as you can give us.
We do,
It's,
and we have like 37 different locations, but we're also very flexible. If you have seen a spot that you feel needs to be cleaned up, by all means, we're happy to oblige.
It's a great event.
What's this council's pleasure? Just we need to receive a file, I guess.
Motion to receive and file
In support, eh?
Yes, we
And
do look forward
support.
to.
and support it. Cool.
Second.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Aaron to receive and file and support. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is I7, and this is Tax Assessor DeMayo in regards to the Northeast revaluation, statistical revaluation presentation.
Michelle, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. This is, I'm sure this is on a lot of people's minds. The goal this evening, I know, was to help clarify and talk about, normally there's changes, there's ups, there's downs. This year was a little bit different than some, so I know you're going to share, and also Northeast Reval is going to share, so floor is
Yes.
yours.
We have two representatives here from Northeast Revaluation to update us and answer any questions that you might have. We do have a neighborhood map that Chris is going to put on the screen just to show the individual neighborhoods and how much each neighborhood went up on average. And of course, every house is different and unique. But I'll let Dan and Mike take over from here. So we have Dan Lane, who was the project supervisor, and Mike Minardi, who was the field review for the town.
I have just a brief PowerPoint presentation that's on our website for more anyone.
Please. If there's extras, if you could leave some for the audience, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just for the record, my name is Michael Minardi, Minardi. I'm a project manager at Northeast Revaluation. Dan Lane was the project manager on this project. As Michelle said, I did a lot of the field review, starting at the Warren Town line, going through the Highlands, through Papa Squash, and then when you get to the other side of town, Mason Farm, down to about the high school. And then there was another field reviewer that started at started at Monkey Wrench Lane, I guess, as far south as you can go, and worked our way up through the center of town. I wasn't going to read through this. You could do that at your pleasure. Just here to briefly go over what was done. We're not here to talk about individual values of people's homes. That's part of the process that we're in right now. We're fielding informal appeals at the company. Because of COVID, they're telephone appeals, which is pretty much the way things have been going due to COVID. It might change, with jobs this year, but for the past couple of years, it's been telephone appeals, and everybody's been very supportive of it. They're fine. Any material that they have that they want to present to support their claims, we have emails they can send. Everybody takes pictures on their cell phones. Sometimes we get lots of pictures from people's cell phones, and we sift through them as best we can. As you know, every 3 years, the town, by Rhode Island law, has to do a revaluation. This was the statistical revaluation, which means that we did not measure and list everybody's property. It was just a review of sales, but we do have staff that goes out to all the sales. So, but once again, due to COVID, it was a knock on the door and then either a conversation with people that were home or just a measure of the home to make sure the dimensions are correct and make sure everything is picked up, whether it's a missing deck or a swimming pool that either is there or isn't there anymore. That's part of what our field people do. After that, we review all the sales, all the building permits. And sometimes we have to, which is a little hard to, it's not hard to explain, but we'll have to unqualify a sale. Just because somebody buys a house for $400,000 doesn't mean that they don't plunk another $300,000 into it. So if we use that sale, it doesn't really represent what it was at the time that it sold. Because by the end of the year, they put an addition on or a garage, or they've upgraded kitchens and bathrooms. And so we have to unqualify that kind of sale. So we get people that come in and say, you know, why didn't you use this sale? Well, it may have been considered, but it has to be disqualified for the reason that it's not the property that they bought during the revaluation period. And Michelle can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it was 2 years worth of sales that were used to come up with the current values. I think the results would have been quite a bit higher if it was just one sale, but that's, I mean, 1 year's worth of sales, but that's fine. It doesn't make any difference. Usually we kind of worry about a lack of sales, but I can tell you that I have it here. According to, I got it. According to the about the last 25 years worth of data from the local realtors, the town averages about 164 single-family sales in a year. Last year, according to the realtors, there were 202, and then the year before that, there were 201. So there was a sufficient number of sales. You can never have enough. The more data, the better. Even because even of the sales that come through that way, even though they're through realtors, some of them get disqualified. For example, foreclosures, bank foreclosures, sometimes estates. There's any number of reasons that something has to get disqualified for what we call non-arm's length transactions. So we did have a sufficient number of sales to do our work. There's never enough sales on Papa Squash, but it's that kind of market down there. But you take what you have at the time and you do your review and arrive at our analysis. We looked for switches in neighborhoods. Sometimes people want to say their street is in the Highlands. Some say it's not in the Highlands. There has to be a line drawn somewhere, and that's always a bone of contention on where those lines are drawn. You know, you just have to draw a line somewhere. You know, the parade route's a good example. When you shorten the parade route, all of a sudden somebody's not in a prime area anymore. And they'll make that claim to us too, but we'll see this year. We did our analysis. Right now, the single family sales, now our analysis showed about 260 sales. Now, not every sale that happens in town goes through a local realtor. It's usually 90, 95%. But because of the strength of the market, there's a lot more for sale by owners out there. So there's been a lot more properties that have transferred without the benefit of a realtor. Good, bad, or indifferent. A sale is a sale. So the sales that we have in the system, they're about, oh, here it is, 268 single family sales as opposed to 202 that went through the local realtors. So about 20% higher than what they had. And with a median value of $435,000. And I looked at just a quick look at the sales in 2022. And it's right now, keeping in mind that it's only 3 months into the year and the median right now is 510. So is that going to continue through the end of the year? I don't know. Is it going to go up? Is it going to go down? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. We just deal with the sales when they happen. And we don't have to worry about this for 3 years, at least the uptick in the market now. You never know. Rates are headed up, 3.25% interest rates are gone. 5% rates are becoming more normal. Will that change the value of homes? Theoretically, it should, but you never know. There's still high demand. There's still low volume of properties for sale out there. And so long as the demand is there, the price is going to keep going up.
You use the calendar, am I correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So I think that was, thank you.
Yeah.
For that quick synopsis. And I'm going to just present all you can, Michelle or whoever should answer this is that, so if a resident has a reval, you mentioned that they can call you, talk to you about it. But if they disagree, so for example, the reval comes in, they see why, and it shows the house with, say, 4 bathrooms and it actually only has 3, or shows it with 3, it only has 1, right? So what are the steps? What is the next step for a resident? And what are, just generally speaking, what are all the steps? If they're not happy with step 1, what are their options to continue their, we'll call it argument or disagreement with the numbers?
So the first step would be to schedule an appointment with Northeast Revaluation to go over what they believe are their issues on the value. If there is something wrong on the field card, they can absolutely call my office as well. As you said, the bathroom, if the bathroom count is wrong or
Whatever it happens to be, right?
right. I can certainly look into that and correct that. But if it has to do with the value itself, the first step would be to contact Northeast and schedule an appointment. It would be an informal hearing on the phone, as Mike said. Once the tax bill is mailed, and the first quarter is due, so August 15th, they would have the opportunity to have a formal appeal through me. If they're still not happy after that appeal is answered, it can go to the tax board of review. And then, of course, if they're not happy with that answer, then they can file in Superior Court.
So how does a resident get in contact with Northeast Reval? Where do they find your information?
It is on the, sorry. It is on the letter that was sent. So they can either call the phone number or go online and schedule an appointment. Every property was given a unique username and password to schedule an appointment online.
If someone loses that information, they can call town hall to get that? Is that fair?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. Colleagues?
Did the neighborhood delineation change at all if somebody calls in, or we get, as far as I was in a C and now I'm in an F, and there's a big difference.
You always look for trends. So 1 call, no. If we get 15 calls, I'm just picking a number at random. If we get a certain number of calls from an area or even a style, pick a strange style. If every person that owned a log cabin in town called and said, "You're way too high. I just had an appraisal done and you're $50,000 higher than what I have," then we would take those and we would review all the log cabins, just to use that as an example. Same with the neighborhoods. If we find that there's a standalone street that has a unique characteristics that either, well, so all the calls are always because they think we're too high. But, there can be a limited number of sales. Like I said earlier, the more sales, the better. So if there's a street or a neighborhood where there's a very few number of sales, that could change a neighborhood boundary.
Okay.
I mentioned if
That's
there's something wrong with it, but what if someone just wants clarity and to understand why Tim asked a great question, right? Why did this neighborhood go up, or why is that one street over it didn't go up? I mean, we don't have to get specific on it, but that's something that you can respond to.
It's hard for the people that are fielding the phone calls are taking the information down, and that would go to either the project manager to review that kind of information. They wouldn't have a map showing the delineations of where one neighborhood starts and another one starts. It's always nice to not chop a street in half so that people on one half are one value and the other side are on another value. There's not usually huge swings in value for something like that, but you try and separate it. They can call. If they don't get satisfaction, they can always call and speak to either Dan or another one of the project managers in the office that can explain that.
Okay, thank you. Anything else from the council? Michelle? Gentlemen? No? Okay. So thank you for taking the moment. Thank you for clearly explaining the options to the resident if they have questions or concerns. So I would imagine that we just need a.
Receive and file.
Okay.
Second.
So motion made by Tony, seconded by Tim to receive and file. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is I8, and this is the Firemen's Memorial Committee for the 2022 sponsor book.
Is the chief still here? No. Okay. So this was brought in front of us and we wanted to have this on the agenda. The request is, actually, it's the 2022 sponsor program book, and the 5 trumpet is a full page. But I wanted to get the council's thoughts on potentially doing 2 full pages and have that represented by the council, the administrator, and the clerk. And that would be a $200 donation, if everybody's amenable.
Chairman, I think that's great, and I'm happy to make that motion.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve 2 5 trumpets for a total $200 out of council contingency. Is there any other discussion?
Plenty of
Hearing
trumpets.
none. Oh, go ahead.
That's a lot of trumpets. It's good.
Yeah.
That is
I was
that
trying
is a
to
total
count
of
them.
10 trumpets, I believe. Yes. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, the next item on the agenda is I9, and this is Director Williamson in regards to the bicycle feasibility study update.
Diane,
Hello.
Floor is
Thank you.
yours.
Thank you. So you will recall last year, we were before the council with the proposal for a bike feasibility study, looking at a downtown network and then extending that along Ferry Road to Roger Williams University specifically. At that time, the council asked us to do more work, more research on the Ferry Road segment. There was a goal of the town to have the path be somewhat narrow and limited. And we also had to talk to the DEM, who's the grant funder, and they had specific requirements, as did the DOT, because it is a DOT state roadway. So the consultant, actually, who is here tonight, Arnold Robinson, and he can come up in a moment and answer any questions. The consultant and I met with the DEM and the DOT, and the conclusion was that it is not feasible to do a separate off-road path, side path on the west side of Ferry Road, given the goals of the town and the requirements of the DEM and the DOT. There is just not enough room in the right of way to accomplish that.
I was just asking for quiet.
Oh,
So
thank you.
Please, go ahead.
So what the consultant recommends in lieu of that segment is continuing to work with the DOT for a walkway, which everybody would support along that roadway.
And I'm gonna ask, if I could just have quiet, it's very difficult to hear. So if you're having a conversation, if you could take it outside, I'd appreciate it. We'd appreciate it. Diane, go ahead.
Thank you. So the consultant recommends that we continue to work with the DOT for a more coordinated improvement along Ferry Road, walkway, replacing the broken curb, looking at, removing the tree stumps, planting trees, and also as part of that, exploring the feasibility of creating a wider shoulder along the travel lane. The wider shoulder would just help with, the roadway being shared by vehicles and bicycles. Right now, obviously you can ride on that road. You can ride on any road in Bristol. But when you're on that road and you've got, the RIPTA bus or the landscaping truck with the trailer coming behind you, there's no safe shoulder to pull over into. So this is what we would like to continue to work with the DOT to do on the Ferry Road segment. So because that then moves that segment of our study off of the bicycle feasibility study, because it's no longer a bicycle, we can't use the bicycle funding for it. The consultant and I have looked at reprogramming the grant funding that is available and looking at a more broader townwide network, which we heard a lot from the citizens during the public workshops of, we've got a great downtown network that we can work within, but we need to do more to pull the residents from the east side of town and do more to maybe create another central corridor through town for more bikeability. So the consultant has prepared a memo, which you have, that lists the recommended scope of work that we are proposing in lieu of the Ferry Road segment. We have to still get permission from the DOT to do that amended scope of work, but we wanted to make sure that you were in favor of that before we did. And then the other piece, we do have funding in the grant for implementation. And we had talked earlier about doing a pilot program downtown, identifying some streets coming from the end of the East Bay Bike Path, putting up some signage, some pavement markings to kind of show the community what this would look like, what we're talking about, and just letting people see it. And we would come back to you. We don't yet have that detailed, list of streets and so forth, but we would come back to you with that before we did it. But we are hoping that you could also move forward with us to have that implementation program for this summer. So with that, that's all I have. And Arnold is here, as I mentioned. You have his memo, which outlines these different tasks in the revised scope of work. And I guess if you have any questions, I can introduce Arnold.
Arnold, did you want to speak to any of these points?
Diane covered it on here as a technical backup. If there are questions I answer, we took a deep dive on ferry, so I can answer questions if they arise.
Really? Okay.
I have a question,
I love it.
but it's not on ferry. It's one of the letters that, one of the emails that I got. The Hope Street, and then part of the issue was coming around the bend and that Hope Street by Lobster Pot, by Wally Beach, and the mess that is in terms of any kind of really walkable path, not even a bike area, it's just a walkable path. Is that just gonna be on hold for DOT to fix, or is that something that we can do? I was thinking, how we talked about what you did with the asphalt on the other end of Hope Street, anything like that in the plans?
So actually, it's really timely. And I think somebody sent, I think you may have sent me the grant announcement. There is an open grant announcement for pedestrian improvement along National Scenic Byways, which the Revolutionary Heritage Byway was just designated. So we are working with the DOT. We're looking at that segment. I'm not sure of the limits, but it's in that neighborhood, specifically Wally Beach. Well, I won't say specifically because we're working on the limits, but it's in the neighborhood of, Wood Street north to Constitution Street. We don't know if we'll get all of that within the grant because of the budget, but we're looking at least the first phase of that would be from Wally to, I want to say Union Street or Summer Street, along that area where the wall is, and then incorporating some drainage, curbing. I've already mentioned to the DOT and they've agreed that if we can pull that curbing back and get a wider shoulder there as well. And then maybe creating another little amenity at that wall for people to kind of stop and just look at the water. So that's a grant application that we're submitting in May, and we'll see how well we do with that. And yeah, so that's.
My wife and I walk our daughter to Colt School a lot of times in the morning, and we go that path, and it is not really a path. It's really in disrepair. So
We have great pictures, and we showed the state during the call, the pictures that we had, and it's just, it's beyond. I mean,
and if I recall, the administrator brought up something recently. I know you and I were talking about we have the visiting ship that comes through that area. Did you want to speak to that at all? Or just
Sure.
the
Yeah,
fact that.
Well, what I can say, in addition to the grant application, Director Williamson's working on for the west side of Hope Street near the Burton Street wall, we're doing some repairs. We're extending the local sidewalk repairs. We're doing further north from Rockwell School, doing the east side of Hope Street from Colt Avenue. And we're starting this spring to work south, east side of Hope Street. And we're going to take it as furthest south as we can go. But unfortunately, it's a very, very expensive project on that state section of sidewalk on the west side. So we're hoping this grant comes through. But it's on the project list. If unfortunately, we just can't wait for DOT any longer. We've been making the repairs necessary. So But hopefully this grant works out for us, because that is a port for the visiting tourist ship that comes in every summer.
Oh, well, thanks, Diane. Thanks for the presentation. Thanks, Arnold, for coming over here. Nice to see you. So I feel like we're in a pretty good space with this. I like the idea that we are moving forward with extending the bike path. I really like the idea that it's linking up over to Roger Williams in some form or the other. I really like the idea of getting those east side towns integrated a lot. There's a lot of excitement, I think, in some of my neighbors who live on the east side of town that they might have some pathways into town that they didn't really have before. And so, and I really like the idea of just having, options for people to live healthier lifestyles. I think that just seeing people out and about doing things, when I was out on the West Coast for a little while, you go to a place like Portland and places like that, or Seattle, and it was very vibrant with people riding bikes and things like that. So it's exciting to know that, some of the biking is coming here and everything. So thank you with that. I did have a question about the shared street kind of thing, and that's not really part of what we would be talking about today, right? It would be.
Well, it's part of what we'd like to
Or-
explore a little deeper. We need to kind of get a little bit deeper into the designs for the north, south, east, west connections beyond the downtown core. So that would be part of the future planning that we'd look to.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So the takeaway is feasibility study. We looked at ferry and it's not feasible, I guess would be the best way to put that. Our next step is to look at interconnecting the town, the east to the west, the north to the south. And then you're going to come back in front of this council for I'm going to call it a pilot or a portion of it that would kind of start at the end of the East Bay bike path and help bikers and walkers and whoever else that uses the path to get past, well, to enjoy that area, but also then to enjoy more of Bristol and to see more of Bristol, to show that and that's what you're going to come back in front of us to propose signage, the spacing on signage, such and so forth, and then what it will encompass as that pilot program. Is that-
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So what do you need from, and I'm not stopping the conversation, but you need from this council the authorization to take the next step in this feasibility study to encompass what we just talked about?
Yes, please. A
Okay.
motion to move forward and I guess concurrent with the recommendations in the consultant's report.
Tim.
So moved. Diane, I think this project is fantastic. It advances many of the goals that we're looking for in town. It cleans up aesthetics. It's about safety. I've seen one resident sent in a picture of joggers. I think it was young women that were jogging back to Roger Williams. They were literally in the road and cars were just slightly going by them. It was kind of jarring. And just some of the pictures of the sidewalk over there on Ferry Road, it's desperate, it needs some work over there. So I think this is going to also just be a better accessibility for riders and anybody who wants to be coming to town. And also a lot of my colleagues touched on the health part of it as well. So I'm in full support. I think it's a win-win project. You can't lose on this. So I hope my colleagues see the same thing.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Is there a discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. And
Thank you.
Arnold, you were very verbose this evening, but thank you, sir. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item of business is J1, and this is RFP 973 for the Tanyard Brook Culvert Replacement Project Phase 3. The bid opening was today at 12 noon. We did receive 2 bids in regards to bid 973. The first bid was from CB Utility Company, Inc. in the amount of $3,876,890. And we also received the second bid from New England Building and Bridge in the amount of $3,959. I'm sorry, $3,959,925.
Mr. Administrator, before we refer this to you, could you just remind this council and the public of what this bid was for?
So this would be the last and final phase of the Tanyard Brook project, which will go from Richmond Street to the State Street Reservoir. And this is just under what we were anticipating the cost would be. So we're right on where we should be, and it'd be great to have it all done.
I'm in
Thank-
awe. I'm going to go back 10 years
Yeah.
and I don't think I ever believed that we would actually get to this part of it. To have it
Yeah.
is tremendous. So,
Mhm.
tremendous. Can we have
Never-
a motion and obviously a lot of
A
discussion?
big hooray. Yes,
Yes.
definitely.
I got to give the council credit because you never say, you never surrender. And we took it from a large project. We broke it down, as you recall, and we were able to finish it in pieces as
Yeah.
the funding came along. So little tenacity and patience, and we're getting it done. So
Yeah.
It's tremendous.
and it's
absolutely
working.
tremendous.
The great part is the sections that are done are actually relieving the back pressure or the backflow from further up north. So
It's
yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
It definitely has made a difference, no question. And it will make an even bigger difference once we complete the project. I make a motion that we refer this to the town administrator to act in the best interest of the town.
Second,
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Tim to refer to the administrator. Any discussion?
this is an awesome milestone. I agree with you, Chairman, and with my other colleagues as well. I mean, we've gone a long time talking about this project and we've gone through many iterations and through the phases. And it's really cool to be finally at almost to the finish line with it.
Agreed. Agreed. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is J2, and this is for the RFP 975 for the planning consultant services for hazard mitigation plan update. Again, today was the bid opening at noon. We did receive 4 bids in regards to this bid. Bid number 1 was from Horsley Witten Group, Inc. in the amount of $17,935. The second bid was from Beta Group, Inc. in the amount of $35,400. The third bid that we received was from Vanessa Hengen Bruslin, Inc. in the amount of $17,000. And the last one was from Parametrics LLC, $73,660.
Make a motion, we refer to the town administrator to act in the best interest of the town.
Second,
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Tim to refer to the administrator. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
aye.
Any opposed?
So Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is J3, and this is for bid number 976, and this is for the fog abatement program development. Bid opening again was today at 12 noon. If we did receive 1 bid in regards to this, and it was from Aquidneck Informatics, Inc. in the amount of $18,495.
Do we go back out or do we? It's only one.
Say it again.
Do we go back out on this one or do we?
So
what's the-
anytime it's one, we have the opportunity, or I should say, the administrator has the
Oh, yeah,
opportunity
sorry.
to negotiate with that bidder, because there was only 1 bid.
I will also say that we did get some quotes early on before we went to bid, and this is within the ballpark what we were expecting.
And I'm going to ask again, the first one was, I knew what I was talking about with Tanyard Brook. Fog abatement, remind us?
So this is the software that the pre-treatment coordinator that works with the businesses and does the testing at the facility. This is software for them, for the coordinator to use.
Thank you. What's this council's pleasure?
Make a motion, we refer to the town administrator to act in the best interest of the town.
Second,
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Tim to refer to the administrator. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
aye.
Any opposed?
So Chairman and members of the council, next item on the agenda is K1, and this is the Alan Klepper from the Barrington Director of the Bristol County Water Authority with the monthly report for February 2022.
Motion to receive and file.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to receive and file. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. There is no,
There is.
There is.
Mr. Charles Galligan is here to speak on the public comment section in
Certainly.
regards to FF5, I believe.
please.
What are we skipping ahead?
Which number?
No, we are so efficient this
F5.
evening. We actually combined some items and we moved some stuff forward, so.
This is great. Thanks you guys for doing those jobs. I'm grateful to you all for taking these responsibilities on. So my name is Charlie Galligan. I live at 83 Fales Road, and I'm just here tonight to request you all to pass some type of resolution to encourage our federal delegation, which is Senators Reid and Whitehouse and Representative Cicilline, to support. I'm part of a national advocacy group pushing for legislation statewide and nationally to preserve previously guaranteed federal rights for all nursing home residents for visitation during future declared states of emergency. And we've had a tough time. We've been battling this for 2 years. We got a state law passed, but the rules governing it have been dragging for the past year. So we're pushing a federal law, and like I say, I'm part of this group, and we've been lobbying reps and senators across the country, including our 3. And I'm asking you all to pass a resolution asking David Cicilline to co-sponsor it, and for Senators Whitehouse and Reid to sponsor a companion Senate bill. So, and I can tell you whatever you want to know about our bill. I've sent a copy of it to the clerk. I've got a 1-page summary here, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Solicitor, remind this council, because this is the citizens forum portion, is no response unless it's added, correct?
So, yeah, but I'm remembering though that it is on the agenda, FF5. And so even though it's citizens forum, because it's on your agenda, you actually can discuss it if you desire.
So I'm going to ask my colleagues, is there questions that you'd like to ask at this moment?
You said we can discuss it. Can we take action on
Yeah,
it
you
as
can.
well?
You can. There's actually a resolution on the agenda. The bill is on the agenda. And if you desire, now it may be because it was on the consent agenda, you may want time to review it, look at it, and bring it forward to another meeting. And I would highly recommend that because this is something quite involved. It's a multi-page bill.
So since we can have discussion, I just had a couple of quick questions. Why haven't they supported it thus far?
It's a great question. I presume you're referring to our 2 US senators and our US rep, Cicilline.
I am.
Yeah, well, I've spoken with Representative Cicilline several times about this. I've emailed back and forth with both senators several times. Like I say, I'm part of this national advocacy group, which consists of 10 really bright women around the country and 1 dorky dude from Rhode Island. I think I was just included in the group. I've always wanted to be the benefit of affirmative action, so finally I got my wish in my old age. But nevertheless,
you may be going off course on that.
Well, not really, no. But I mean, so I'm familiar with the efforts across the country. And for example, all 5 US reps from Connecticut are now co-sponsors. I could sit here and bore you with the reasons that Representative Cicilline has told me he was not yet willing to sign on. But we've addressed all their concerns. And it's time now. It's been 2 years, and still this could happen at any time. Like this lockdown of nursing homes. Any nursing home, as the laws are currently constituted, they could do it annually for 3 or 4 months for a flu outbreak or the norovirus outbreak. And we're just trying to protect against that. And, we're very, very grateful, my group and everybody, in this caregiving role for all the CNAs and nurses and all support staff. And they've all been very, very encouraging. They see the benefits of human contact for these residents that can't speak for themselves. But sadly, there are some in the industry, the higher ups, who got fairly too comfortable with families being just completely locked out.
So for myself, certainly there's a lot of research that would have to happen. I'm happy to consider having this on the next agenda, but I must tell you this. If you were here at the beginning of the meeting, I think I said it 4 times. I'm not a big fan of resolutions not because what you're putting in front of this council makes sense or doesn't make sense, is that it changes. It's organic. It as our rep and senator said at the beginning of the meeting, a bill can change, and what we think we're supporting or not supporting could be something that we want to do a flip flop on, and our words are then stuck in the past. So that always concerns me.
Yeah.
If this was morphed in, and I'm not saying it's going to be, but it's happened in the past where a bill, state end of things has changed immensely, and we had written opposition or support of it, and it didn't go that way.
Yeah, I can understand. I wasn't here at the beginning of the meeting. I've devoted a couple hours to sitting, I got to get my wife home to bed at a reasonable hour, but I have other things to do. But so I wasn't, but I appreciate your concern. I can only tell you that my group and the US rep, the sponsoring rep, and I think we're up to, I will tell you at one point, Cicilline told me that we only had 9 co-sponsors, and his words to me were, well, that's nothing. To which, you might respond, well, what does it matter? How much you could just look at the bill. But now we're up to, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 US reps. But
it sounded like I was going to disagree, but if the premise is to allow loved ones to go see their loved ones, I'm sorry, I don't know why you'd be in opposition of that. So, but that's not enough. I don't have enough information to hang my hat on that, but so far
I can
seems
help
to make
you
a
with,
lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I can help you with getting whatever information. I can tell you that my group and the, congressmen and women across the country put a lot of work into the language of the bill a year and a half ago. So the bill was, we went down to Capitol Hill last June, and, I spoke at the press conference introducing the bill on Capitol Hill. And so the language has been set in stone since that time.
Okay.
So I think it's an 8 or 10 page bill. Missy's got a copy of it. I've got a 1-page summary.
Yeah, we have a copy.
Yeah, I mean, it's, but it's not really in dispute.
So
Hit me.
You said that this law passed, similar law passed in Rhode Island last year, but is that it? In that there's been nothing, like the rules and regulations have not been set forth yet? Is that what you said?
Yeah, so we did all this work on the state side. It was actually our rep, I worked with our reps, June Speakman, and she sponsored it, and we got it passed. It's a lot of work dealing with politicians and realizing my audience. But this is not my game, right? Like, I'm a criminal defense private investigator. I have a really fun, cool job that I love. And now I have the second job of caring for both my parents, which is a different kind of rewarding. Now this advocacy has taken on a life of its own. It's not really what I have time or it's not innate to me, but nevertheless, I did a lot of work, and I had friends, colleagues, people, mostly middle-aged women who are caregivers, help me push through the Rhode Island legislature a bill. We got it passed unanimously, I think back in June, maybe July. And then since that time, I've been haggling with the Rhode Island Department of Health, with whom I deal regularly, on the language that will govern the bill. So I've gone to hearings, I go to hearings, I testify, and it's kind of ridiculous that I'm still fighting.
What is their holdup? I mean, are they just like too busy, or are they?
Well, the last version of the rules that they gave me, so there's, I won't bore you, but the last version of the rules they gave me, it said, yes, all you nursing homes and assisted living facilities, you have to let one essential caregiver in to have physical access, no matter the state of emergency. And then it said, except for these circumstances, and it said, I don't know, A, B, C, D, and the last one said, quote, other mitigating factors.
Right, could be anything.
So if a nursing home administrator or CEO of a chain wants, doesn't like somebody's son who speaks up too much and pitches a fit when things aren't right, they can just kick him out, and other mitigating factors. And then so I complained about that language, and they changed it. I waited for a hearing. 3-4 months after that, there was another hearing, and they had changed other mitigating factors to necessary circumstances. They can opt out. Essentially, nursing homes can opt out of this, complying with this bill, for necessary circumstances. So that's the kind of malarkey that I'm up against. So
what's driving,
Yes, I did.
what's driving that, the changing in the language? Then do the insurance, not the insurance, do the nursing homes they want that freedom? They don't want to be pinned down to under these circumstances?
I don't know how candid you want me to be.
Well, I guess
Well,
Senator
it's up to
Chairman,
you.
I
I
don't
mean,
know
I'll
how
be as
far we wanna
candid
go
as you
to
want, but you're asking a loaded question.
So before you answer that.
I can tell you the most ethical, conscientious people in the industry, they all want family members back and they think it's the isolation. I mean, I make cracks now and then, but actually the inhumanity that went on was just, and it's still going on in pockets of the country. It's horrendous. I mean, I saw even for the people that survived. So I had a mother on the inside at the old St. Elizabeth Manor before that place tanked. And my father was at home with us, with Alzheimer's, and they were together every day. Then they were separated for a year. And they, of course, they didn't understand. And, I would have rather my parents kept getting to see each other and they could have died of COVID a year and a half ago. It would have been preferable to this.
Why
It's
don't you do-
inhumane.
Why don't you do this through the clerk, if you would? If you've heard some of the questions that the council and the feel behind it, maybe you can address that I happen to be a bullet point guy. We don't need 18,000 paragraphs. If there's anything that you believe that you'd want to share with the council, do it through the clerk if you would, and we can consider having this on the next agenda.
I mean, it's all common sense. I can just speak up. What you're asking me to write up more?
No, I didn't say that. What I said was I'm looking for a bullet point for this council. If there's anything that you feel wasn't addressed in this conversation that you want to share, then share it in an email and we can consider
Okay.
having this on the next agenda. So, because we need to do a little bit more homework we need to do a lot more homework. And I think I prefaced this by saying the premise seems right and correct. What I'm wondering is there anything we're missing? And if there isn't, then we can take a next step if this council so chooses.
No, the only opposition, and I've had this conversation, a few thousand times in the past, literally a few thousand times in the past couple of years. And the only opposition I've ever heard was from higher ups in the industry that are fine with families being out of there. There's a staffing shortage nationwide. And, the more people like me that go in there and see it, the tougher it is on the nursing home administrators. But we, as an essential caregiver, when I'm in there, I ease the burden on the nurses and
Well, that's the
CNAs.
irony, isn't it? I mean,
It is.
because you need to be there so that your person, your family member is getting care
Yeah,
because they don't have anybody else to do it. And they sort of then can just skip over that room because they know somebody's there. But yet people don't really want to shine the light on what's going on there
Yeah.
because the place is like a disaster sometimes.
yeah. And, I tell people, I'll let you guys go, but I tell people that the effects of isolation are still as deadly if it happens in the future, today or in the future. The isolation for nursing home residents is still just as deadly now as it was in 2020. But COVID is not as deadly now as it was in 2020. And we need to adjust with the times. And so, I'm going to keep on our US rep and keep on our US senators. But, the people on my committee from Connecticut, they're putting me to shame and laughing at me because Rhode Island's lagging. And it's frankly, I find it disgraceful and it's embarrassing. So thanks for listening.
Charlie, I know you've been doing this for a couple of years now. You've just been a dogged advocate for all the work that you're doing. And even getting that state legislation through was a heavy lift for you, and you ended up getting that done. And so, I mean, is there a chance then that Charlie will he'll have his hearing or have an agenda item the next meeting that we have?
I think we agreed to that.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
right. That's
right.
Okay. Yeah. I just, how does that motion go then?
We don't need a.
Oh, we don't need a
we
motion.
can't-
Okay.
No,
I'd like to have it two-pronged.
we don't need a motion to put it on the next agenda. We can just put it on the next
Yeah,
agenda.
okay.
So,
And I want to let you know too, my national advocacy group, so we're called the Essential Caregiver Movement. And we took the trouble to publish a book. We compiled stories of horrendous isolation from all 50 states. It's called Protecting Them to Death. So you can look that up on wherever you guys get your books. But so we went collecting stories from all 50 states. I even found some random woman from Minnesota who gave me a story about her father-in-law. So I'd encourage you to read that. And any questions you have, fire away. But sure, I'd be happy to write up some.
you don't
bullet
need
points.
to, I'll say it again, if there was something you felt that needed clarity that was discussed this evening, if you felt like the question wasn't responded to as clearly as you were hoping, share it with the clerk, if you would, please. But if you feel everything was good, then don't. It's absolutely okay. So thank you for taking the moment. I know
Thanks for
it's-
listening. So I'll just wait to hear from you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, beautiful. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Was there any? No, I don't. No, thank you. We just need a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you all. Good evening.